Stay dandy, baby. Men with guns, mean monsters, and a certain mama returns in the latest episode of The Promised Neverland. Things immediately go to shit in this episode. And you know what? I'm excited to see how it's going to go. That being said, I do want to address the elephant in the room. I noticed in a lot of my comments on my last review that apparently The Promised Neverland is deviating greatly from the manga storyline. Now, as someone who has never read the Promised Neverland manga, I don't know this. I can't tell, and for what it is right now, I'm still very much enjoying what the series is doing. I'm definitely one of those people that certainly appreciates when a manga comes out, they do adapt the entire storyline, but when you're ignorant to it, you tend not to notice these details all that much. And so far, I am really liking a lot of the developments that are actually going on in the series, as jarring and weird as some of them might actually be, and I'll talk about those a little bit more in the rundown of this episode. That being said, there's a lot of really huge developments in this episode, so let's go ahead and dive right in. First and foremost, the last episode ended with a massive cliffhanger with Emma being on the phone with what is supposedly the William Minerva, and apparently it's not actually him on the other line, it's basically just a recording, but we get to learn another truth. Apparently William Minerva is not his name. His real name is James Rattray, and apparently he is a guy who used to be in line with the farms. He was a human who worked along with the demons, except that he had a lot of sympathy and empathy for all of the children who were basically being raised as food, so he decided to do something about it. He wanted to actually all allow them to escape, hence why he created this shelter, and why he created all of these books with all of this cryptic messages in it in order to help them escape. However, apparently the demons caught wind of this, and maybe he's not with us anymore. It's hard to say. The point is, this shelter was created so that he could get these children away and so that he could bring them eventually to the human world. So while James Rattray is someone who may or may not currently exist, he has had a massive influence on the series in allowing these children to escape and to take shelter. And that means we get a big montage sequence. There's like a 2.5-minute sequence of simply just watching the children do their thing, learning how to hunt, growing food, interacting with one another, having fun, and enjoying the fact that they basically get to be children again. They get to forget about all of their fears of living in this world where everybody just simply wants to eat them. And honestly, we needed something like this. We needed a breather after all of the intensity of discovering the shelter and learning that the person that's been guiding them this entire time isn't who they thought they were, but still someone who's going to be instrumental in actually helping them out eventually in the future. And all of this stuff is pretty well and good, and it works. Then after that, we get one hell of a bombshell where we go back to the demons and they're in this mysterious prison, and one of the prisoners just so happens to be Mother Isabella. Not only did she fail in her mission to keep these children from escaping, but now she's been thrown in prison and supposedly is going to be killed. That is until she is presented an offer by one of these head demons to try and hunt these children down. Now, this scene is really important for a number of reasons, as you could feel that she was almost relieved at the fact that these kids escaped at the end of the last season, and she doesn't seem to want to have to do anything with hunting them down. That is until she is given that actual mission, and I have a feeling she has an ulterior motive here, and I don't think that she actually wants to bring them back to the demons. She might even be wanting to help them out too, seeing them as sort of like a beacon of hope. The fact that there is a way to fight back against these demons, and there is a way to fight back against this ridiculous promise that they made with them thousands of years ago. The point is, Mother Isabella continues to be a pretty intriguing character despite the fact that she doesn't have much to do in this episode, aside from just have a really creepy image about her. Like just seeing her in the dark with her hair all long and disheveled, but she still manages to have that creepy Mother Isabella smile, and again, I think that's integral to her character. You know, in the first season, I considered her one of the greatest anime villains of all time. This could be an excuse to finally see her redeem herself, or potentially make her even more terrifying. The fact of the matter is, she might be working for the demons now, and she's gonna be a hunter, so she's Hunter Isabella at this point. And then that leads to what might be one of the weirdest scenes of the entire series. So after the big montage and Mother Isabella sequence and watching all the characters go through a few moments where they're hunting, especially with these weird gooey frogs, which is just a weird sequence of watching them try to eat some weird food that they think might be poison. It's mostly played for laughs. We get a scene where there's this huge explosion outside of the vault door, and suddenly the entire shelter is invaded by all of these men in gas masks and riot gear and with straight up machine guns guns. And is it just me, or did another anime just suddenly start during this scene? Look, I know that it takes place like in 2047. It takes place like way far in the future, and of course, this is a world where things are going to be a little different than the one that we live in, for the fact that it's divided amongst humans and demons. I'm not quite sure how crazy the technology in the series is, but we do know that it's advanced to a point where someone having machine guns wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. But it was just such a weird image to see these guys come in who look like a freaking SWAT team to hunt these children down. Luckily, since they've been experimenting with the shelter and finding all these secret rooms and hideouts and including another entrance underneath, they do have a way to actually escape from them. And as they make their way to the forest, we get to see that most of the children have been captured by them, and it looks like Emma and Ray are about to be executed by these guys, when suddenly a giant monster just comes out of the frickin' woods and starts to devour all of them. Hilariously enough, these soldiers with guns can't do anything against the monster, but Ray just sort of like blindly fires an arrow and it ends up like hitting it in the eye, which causes it to start to boil up and explode. And then all the kids just run into the forest, running for their lives into the darkness. It's a pretty terrifying ending, knowing that there really isn't anyone in this world they can trust, and the only ones that they have been able to trust so far have been two random demons that they happen to run into. But when it comes to monsters and other demons and humans, basically, they're constantly being hunted by everyone. Now, as for the affiliation of these humans and how it works with them working directly with the farms remains to be seen. I still think that's something that I want to learn a little bit more about, but we'll discuss that a little bit more in the rundown of this episode of The Promised Neverland. While it might be deviating from the manga, at least according to my commenters and what I've heard from other people, I'm enjoying what I'm seeing here. I'm not sure what other storyline we should have been getting at this point. Maybe you guys can sound off in the comment section below without being too spoilery about it. I am enjoying what I'm actually getting right here. It still manages to be very intense, and again, so different from anything from the first season of the show, while still managing to carry some of that same feeling, and most of that is because of the actual characters themselves, these children, who in any other anime series could be immensely annoying. But the fact that they grew up as orphans and they rely on each other so much, and they've been thrown into this situation where they've had to train and get better at like living out in this wilderness, they're not annoying at all. You'd think they'd be whining and crying the entire time, even when they're, at gunpoint, even when a giant bloodthirsty monster just bursts out of the woods and starts eating these commandos alive. Like, they don't freak out at all. And I don't know what it is, but that's really impressive with these kids. I can't wait to see more of the crazy situations that they're actually going to get into. And I really loved that they brought back Mother Isabella. I was waiting when she was going to be making her big appearance in the season, especially getting to see what was going to happen to her after all of these kids escaped. I mean, I want to see like who's going to be running the Gracefield house at this point when they try to break out these kids. They go into that a little bit more in their plan here, how they're going to try and not only bust out, Phil and everybody else who's back at the Gracefield house, but getting the children out of all the other farms, bringing them back to the shelter, which I have a feeling they're not going to be returning to as they try to make their way to the human world. I just can't wait to see how all of that is eventually going to play out. But there's still so much mystery to this world and how it actually works. I mean, you never know when a giant monster is just going to come out and start fucking some shit up. That's the thing that's remarkable about the show. And the fact that these kids can keep up their spirits even with that happening, again, speaks volume for their overall character and bravery, which is, again, what makes them so really great. So, yeah, I liked this episode, even with some of the weirdness, like the fact that we now have a SWAT team of gas mask-wearing soldiers coming in with guns. They seem kind of out of place in the overall backdrop of what the show has been doing so far, but again, it makes me even more intrigued to see how, like, the humans are working with the demons in terms of running these human farms. They might not even be human for all we know. They might be some sort of weird other breed of demon, but they seemed pretty human. Even Ray mentions when they're coming in there, they don't sound like demons when they're moving around. They sound like humans. So I don't know, just a lot of questions. I will say that I do like where the story is going, and production value-wise, it still continues to be pretty solid from beginning to end. Now that we've left the desert and the shelter, I am ready for some more crazy and elaborate environments, I do have to admit. Every time they go back to the forest, it's always just more interesting because, one, it just looks different, and two, it's filled with all sorts of weird creatures. Like, I didn't even really talk too much about the whole, like, hunting or fish scene that they had in this episode. I glossed over it a little bit, but I love all of the unique flora and fauna of this world. How it almost seems like sea creatures exist just in like out of the water. Like, it's weird. Like, you have like jellyfish that are floating around in the forest. You have fish that are flopping around on trees. It's just sort of weird and alien-like, and I find that very fascinating. Again, it just makes a unique backdrop for the series, and the fact that they've made their way back into the forest makes me think that maybe we're going to see Mujika and Sanju again. I mean, like I said, they were plastered all over the promotional material for this season. I just have a feeling that they're going to return. Otherwise, I really enjoyed this episode. Again, I don't read the manga, so I can't judge it on that. I can't make a comparison between the two. But for me personally, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. So I'm going to give this episode a 4 out of 5. I thought it was really solid, and I cannot wait to see what's going to be happening next. But your thoughts may differ, so make sure to sound off in the comment section below and tell me what you thought about the latest episode of The Promised Neverland and what you hope to see from the future. If you are a manga reader, is this deviating from the main story? Does that upset you? Do you think they're just going to be creating something new for the anime to maybe expand on that a little bit more? And what do you hope to see from the rest of the second season and beyond? Comment section below. Thank you guys for watching this review. Please make sure to subscribe for more videos just like this one. If you did like this video, make sure to hit the like button, and it'll ensure that more people will see this video as well as checking out my channel, and they could possibly subscribe so they could see all of my latest anime reviews. I'd also like to take this time to thank all of my patrons who go the extra mile every month by not only watching my videos, but making those monthly donations. I cannot thank you enough for that. Remember, first-time donators, I will review an anime series of your choice. I have a number of Patreon reviews which are going to be coming up very soon, so make sure to stay tuned for all of that good stuff. And of course, if you become a patron, I would love to add your name to this list of super amazing people, the producers of Ace Guru. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.